I just wanted to thank the church and everybody for making this possible. I'm humbled and excited and slightly terrified, but I'll get through it. So I just got a few things here to keep me on track. So for me, there was a long time in my life, we talk about traveling through the valley in men's group, where things aren't, you don't feel like you have a lot of purpose, things aren't going great. And then I met Gina. She's my best friend, she's my wife. And coming into that family, and the family just accepting me, and there were some circumstances there that may have made it tough, but just accepting me, and then as Gina and I progressed and it was time to ask her to marry me, I went over to Frank and Mary's house, and I was thinking I needed to be more scared of Frank. But when I sat down with them, Mary asked me point blank, she said, "Damon, do you believe in God?" And it wasn't an end-all be-all question. It wasn't going to make or break anything, but I was kind of already through spending time with them and knowing that they were very into the church and being a Christian. I started to feel that influence, and the answer was yes. I said yes. I wasn't sure what that meant yet, but the answer was yes. And then after Gina and I got married and bringing Addie and Brody into my life, and they accepted me the same way. They love me as their stepdad, and it's been great. But, you know, Gina and I, one of our biggest influences is Frank and Mary, just their marriage, the way they spend time together, the way they do things together. That's kind of what Gina and I aspire to be. We always talk about that all the time. And I always kind of felt as I was moving through it that you're either moving towards God or away. So there's no stopping. If you're stopped, you're really going away. And if you're moving towards, then you're moving towards. And I felt myself moving towards that, going through the pandemic, going through all the challenges. You know, you see a lot of worship of the self these days. A lot of worship of the self. And the problem with that is that when the self goes through a tough time, then where do you go? Right? So I, wanted to find that purpose and find that. So when I came to church, it was a year ago. It was last Easter. It was kind of the first time that this whole thing started. We finally said, "Hey, honey, let's go to Easter service and see." And then my father-in-law gave me the, "You're only here Christmas and Easter" comment, the Creaster comment. But I came away from that service just feeling so good. Just feeling, and it was the spirit and just feeling really good. And Gina and I talked, and I said, I really want to get more involved in this, and it just feels great. So I started coming to men's group on Thursday nights, and we welcome anybody that wants to come. Sometimes we don't have too many people. We want everybody to come, and if you're lucky, Frank will bring food every once in a while. And that was great, because Sunday's more about listening and reflecting, and men's group is more about a dialogue. There's questions, and I'm very inquisitive. I always have questions about things, and we go over passages, and we go over chapters in the Bible and verses, and there's a dialogue with multiple people who have a lot more experience in this than I do, so it's very helpful. It helps me find purpose and stay into it. And obviously being here on Sundays with Mick and the worship team and all that, it just makes me feel really good. And my whole life growing up as an athlete, victory was when the clock hits 0, when the putt goes in on the 18th hole. Gerald, there's your golf reference. And this, so that was always victory to me as an athlete, was when the game's over, you either win or lose. If you win, you're victorious. If you don't, then you're not. So when Sean asked me to speak, it was originally going to be about the men's group and trying to talk about that, and then he bumped me up to Easter and wanted me to talk about my victory, and so I never got to play a game in the minors, and I got brought right up to the big show. So I kind of had to change that, and a lot of things happened leading up to this, just in my life. Nothing terrible, but just things that were distractions. And Sean and I talked about it leading up to this, just things that didn't go right, things that I think were meant to kind of pull me away from this moment or make me think that, that's not a big deal. I don't need to do that. But the victory is the fact that I I feel like I'm now equipped to navigate through those challenges when they come up. So now, when things don't go right, knowing that there's a higher power, knowing that there's Jesus, it's always going to get better. It might not get better right away, but it will. And obviously the importance of being here on this day, which was, the greatest victory, and just, knowing that this isn't it. And I think for a lot of people, that's the problem, is when you think like this is it, then you want to gather all the stuff you can, and you want to get all the money you can, and you want to get all the possessions you can, because you feel like when you go, that's it. You did what you did here, and that's it. And that's not the case. And I feel like when I was going through the tougher times, God was always there. I just hadn't looked up yet. And it made more sense always being in bouts of despair, thinking that my past defined me and those tough times defined me. Well, when you find God, you know that it doesn't. And you're not defined by that. And that was just part of the journey that he laid out for you. And you've got to stay on that path and continue to try to do that. So now victory would be, the game's still going on, but the victory's already happened, and now it's just a matter of keeping it going and not losing sight of that. So, yeah. So I appreciate you guys. God bless you all. Happy Easter. Thank you.